You are listening to A Scary State, and this week we have another special episode. So, Kenzie?
Yes, Lauren.
Let's get scary.
Woohoo!
Happy birthday episode!
Thank you.
We are doing it a little out of order. So, Thanksgiving this year is on the 23rd. Mackenzie's birthday is on the 24th. And we're like, oh, let's do Mackenzie's birthday episode, and then we'll do the Thanksgiving episode. So, that's fine.
It's fine.
They're both going to fall in November, right? The Thanksgiving one should fall in November, right?
I think it's the 30th.
Okay, we're good.
No, the 29th, because the 28th is the Tuesday when we go to the concert.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to see Ice Nine Kills. I'm so freaking excited.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God, I'm so excited.
It'll be an experience.
Oh my God, I love him. I love him. We're going to be so close. Well, seat-wise. For the older people.
For the older
We'll
people.
be close for the older people. Because when I bought the tickets, I told Mackenzie, I was like, hey, do we want to stand or do we want to sit? And she goes, sitting might be a little bit better. I was like, it's a little bit more expensive. And she goes, yeah, that might be a little bit better. We're not as young as we once were.
Sitting is great.
We can't do the whole mosh pit.
I loved when we went to that one concert and we were sitting and we could see.
Yes,
that was great.
At the Fillmore.
Yes.
Yes. So the Fillmore in Maryland, if you ever go there, it's in Silver Spring. You can get like the VIP section. Yes, it's more expensive. But if you have like the ability, do it because you're up above everyone. So you can watch all the mosh pitting, but you're completely safe. And you can have your drink and no one's bumping you.
Yeah.
You can go to the bathroom and come back and you still have your seat. And the bands look at you. I have made eye contact with Ronnie Radke twice up there. One time, direct eye contact. I have it on film. And then another time, he pointed at me and I waved and he waved back. Amazing. It was like my highlight. In love.
I know.
Oh, so yes.
So, couple special episodes whenever they happen.
It's the holiday season. It'll happen when it happens.
Yeah, exactly. So here are some fun facts about my exact day of birth. When were
you born?
Well, I was going to say November. And I was like, don't read the numbers. That's dumb. But then, I don't know.
It came out worse.
Again, brain, mouth didn't process fast enough. So my exact day of birth is November 24th, 1994.
Do you know the day of the week?
Yeah. Thursday, because I was born on Thanksgiving.
Oh, I don't know why I didn't put it together that you were born on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, legit on the actual day of Thanksgiving.
Oh.
Yeah, I wasn't just saying that to be obnoxious.
Interesting. Okay, I'll never forget that.
So the number one song at the time was I'll Make Love to You by Boyz II Men.
Oh.
The number one movie was the Santa Claus movie.
Joe loves Santa Claus movie.
I like it too.
We watch it every year now.
The price of gas was $1.19.
That's painful.
So
except the price of gas is going down now.
Yes, I just got some for $3.13 today.
Might need to just take a little trip over there to get something.
Yeah, travel all the way out there, get gas, come back, need gas again.
Well, there were times when we would drive down to JMU, we would pass whatever, Winchester.
Yeah.
And it was always so cheap. And I was like, would it be stupid to drive down here where it's $1 cheaper to fill up than drive home? Because it was only 45 minutes outside, out of the way.
Only. So there is this new trend that I found where you take the Florida Man and that whole thing, and you look up your birthday.
Okay.
And you find what Florida Man story was big on your birthday.
Amazing.
So I did both of our birthdays.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. So for yours, from Delray Beach, authorities say a man in Florida hit 2 women with his van and a woman died.
Oh.
Yeah, yours is kind of sad.
Well, that's not a fun Florida Man story.
No, it's not. Mine's a lot more fun. 3 people said on Friday that 39-year-old Elson Silensu was working in the women's home in Delray Beach, and they reported to the local media that when some man was leaving his home, he crashed into 59-year-old Maria Ambrose and her 28-year-old daughter with a Chevy van. The 28-year-old had been discharged, but Ambrose unfortunately died.
So that was my story.
Florida man indicted for the January 6th attack on the Capitol.
Woo!
Hell yeah.
We love to hear it.
I know. So law enforcement officials determined a Florida man from the far-right Oath Keepers militia group was involved in the U.S. Capitol attack. The Florida man was arrested after the accusation file was created about the incident. And you can find literally any birthday. Just type in Florida man birthday and you'll find the website.
It's so funny that this is a thing. Like, Florida, are you okay?
No. So apparently it's also November 24th is Sardines Day.
Oh, yum. Did you know that sardines are in Caesar salad dressing?
I did. It's one of those things I just pretend not to know.
My friend is allergic to seafood. And so if it's like processed Caesar dressing, he can eat it. But if it's like homemade Caesar dressing, he can't eat it because it has the sardines in it.
God, I thought it was bad just for shellfish.
Yeah, no, like all seafood.
That sucks.
So I got sushi today and I was like, this would kill you.
Actually, now that I realize it, I don't need to be able to eat all seafood, just shellfish.
I need to be able to eat it all.
Yeah.
All of it.
Even better, it's Celebrate Your Unique Talent Day.
What's your unique talent?
I can touch my tongue to my nose.
I was going to say that is mine too. Aw. Do it.
Got stuck on my teeth.
We went to a friend's birthday the other day and we were playing some card game. And that was one of the things. It's like, if you can touch your tongue to your nose, like something. And so I didn't know anyone in the friend group except the girl's birthday. And so everyone looks at this one girl and she's like, I can do it. I said, I can do it too. I was like, no one can ever do this.
A long tongue.
We just have the ability. A lot of people like bite their tongue and then try to do it. It doesn't work. You have to just let it go.
Let it go. Let it go. Okay. So, on this date in history, in 1877, Anna Sewell's animal welfare novel Black Beauty is published. So the novel teaches about animal welfare, and it also teaches about how to treat people with kindness, sympathy, and respect.
Aw.
In 1932, the FBI Scientific Crime Detection Laboratory, known as the FBI Crime Lab, officially opened in Washington, D.C.
That's so cool.
In 1963, Jack Ruby, a Dallas nightclub owner, shot Lee Harvey Oswald to death. If that name, Oswald, sounds familiar, it's because that is the man who assassinated JFK. Supposedly. That's what the CIA wants you to think.
Oh my God.
Speaking of conspiracy theories, in 1971, D.B. Cooper, a hijacker, parachuted out of the Northwest Orient Airlines 727 over Washington state with $200,000 in ransom money in his possession. No one knows whatever happened to him. And
That's
I didn't cover it because there's so many fucking things out there that you can find on D.B. Cooper, and
yeah,
it's
been covered.
It's not special anymore.
Yeah, we do things that people don't know about.
Yeah.
Sometimes. Most of the time.
Right. But all these things happened on my birthday.
So obviously we have to talk about it.
And then on November 24th, 1974, fossils of an early human ancestor were discovered in northeastern Ethiopia. The fossil would soon be nicknamed Lucy and help us learn that over 3 million years ago, the human species was walking upright.
That's wild.
Homo erectus. The fact that my history teacher in high school could say that with a straight face is astounding.
He was probably like, can people just not laugh for once?
Yeah. So some birthday twins. Sarah Hyland, and she plays the oldest daughter on Modern Family.
Nice.
Katherine Heigl, most notably from Grey's Anatomy, but she's been in a slew of other things. Ted Bundy.
I did not know this.
Really?
Yeah, and that's kind of creepy.
Yep. Charles Starkweather.
Also creepy. We covered him, Nora covered him back in some state. Can't remember what state, but it has been covered.
Yeah. For the state specifically.
Yes.
Both were serial killers, technically, if in case you're wondering.
Yes.
The 12th president of the United States, Zachary Taylor.
Wow.
And Bessie Blount Griffin. And let me tell you about her because she's a fucking badass.
Okay. We love badass women.
She's so fucking cool. Okay. So she first starts off her career as a physical therapist, and she works as a physical therapist after World War II with a lot of soldiers who were amputees.
Aw.
And she would tell them, you're not crippled, only crippled in your mind. And she was ambidextrous. And so because she was ambidextrous and she had the ability to do those kinds of tasks with like your mouth and your feet and all those things.
Oh my gosh.
She could help those patients even more so who were missing maybe both arms or whatever. So she was so good that she also cared for and worked closely with Theodore Edison, son of famous inventor Thomas Edison.
Wow.
So then she invents an electric self-feeding apparatus for amputees.
Oh my God.
Like, she's the one who invented it.
And in like 1914? No, that's when she was born. So I guess like the 1940s though.
Yep, 1948.
Dang.
The Veterans Affairs Office didn't have any interest in her invention. Yeah, no.
They aren't always the best.
So then she continues to really be a badass. In 1969, Blount embarked on a second career in law enforcement, pursuing forensic science research for police departments in New Jersey and Virginia.
Oh my God.
During her previous patient therapy, while developing ambidextrous functions or writing with teeth and feet, she had begun to see a correlation between physical health and writing characteristics. From her observations, she saw how a person's handwriting reflected their state of health. This discovery inspired her to publish a technical paper on medical graphology. After the publication, Blount's career in forensics quickly grew.
I want to read this.
By the late 1960s, she was assisting police departments in Norfolk, Virginia, and Vineland, New Jersey, and later joined the Portsmouth, Virginia Police Department as chief examiner until 1972.
Damn.
In 1977, the Metropolitan Police of Scotland Yard Forensic Science Laboratory invited her to join them in London for an advanced studies in graphology. So at 63 years old, she was the first Black woman to be accepted into the advanced studies at the Document Division of Scotland Yard. And then when she returned to the United States, she started her own forensic science consulting business, which ran for 20 years. And she used her forensic experience to examine documents and slave papers from pre-Civil War.
Amazing.
She operated the business until she was 83. And her verification of authenticity was also used on Native American treaties with the United States.
That's so cool.
Isn't that the most badass thing you've ever fucking heard?
Yes.
Like,
I love her.
she's so cool.
Yeah,
So
she is
freaking
really cool. It's a great birthday to have, like, to share
Right?
a birthday with. A great person to share a birthday with.
And I was excited too, because I'm like, and I tried to kind of keep the people spooky,
Right.
you know, spooky facts, spooky
Right.
whatever.
You know, of course.
And then I found her and I'm like, forensic science. Oh my God, you've done everything.
Yes.
Like, oh, such a badass.
Need to talk about you.
Seriously. So she was born November 24th, 1914.
Nice.
So I feel like it could be a random Jeopardy question in the future. You can just be able to shout out the answer.
We'll watch it again tonight.
Yeah.
I freaking love Jeopardy.
Right?
Sometimes I feel so smart if I answer a question that they can't answer. I'm like, why am I not on here?
Or if I like get it before you started reading the question.
Richie was like, Lauren, you should go on here. I said, I'm surprisingly doing very well right now. And then we played last night and, you know.
I'm like, the categories happen to be things I know.
Yes. If they're things I know, then I'm really good at it. But if they're just like random topics that you should know, like literature, I'm like,
I know some of those things.
I know some, but like other ones, I'm like, I have literally not a single clue.
Which is fair. So on the flip side of births, we also have some birthday deaths. Sadly, Freddie Mercury
Oh,
also died on my birthday, but in 1991. No one died on my birthday.
Yeah.
At least that I know of.
If I could see anyone in concert,
Mhm.
like dead or alive, it
Yep.
would be him.
100%.
Like, oh,
Cried at the end of that movie.
such a good
It
movie.
was such a good movie.
I love it. It can, if I'm like scrolling through channels and it comes on, it doesn't matter where in the movie it's at, I will watch it.
Mhm.
Oh, I
He's
love him.
Amazing. Barack Obama's dad
Oh,
also passed away on my birthday in 1982.
that's sad.
Florence Henderson, she was Miss Brady from the Brady Bunch.
Mhm.
She died on my birthday in 2016.
Dang, that was recent.
Yeah. LOL. People born on this day were most likely conceived on March 3rd of that same year.
Gross. My birthday-ish.
Well, I was a Valentine's Day baby because I was late. So,
Yeah, you would have been late.
Mhm.
About 2 weeks.
Mhm.
I was 2 weeks late too.
Aw,
Aw.
yeah. It's just all cozy.
I know. That's what my mom said. She was like, you just didn't want to come out. That's why I like being warm, probably.
So, my zodiac sign
Mm.
is a Sagittarius, which sucks because I can't spell it.
It is hard to spell.
Mhm. They are fundamentally curious, restless, and independent. They
Check,
have,
check, and check.
they have strong thoughts, their ideas about meaning, and what's right or wrong.
Mhm.
Interested in pushing the boundaries of existence, they live to be free and to learn.
That really is like you spot on.
I know. That's why I wanted to include this one
Yeah.
because it's from my little app.
That's great.
So it's in my 11th house. Don't know what that means, but it's there. And I feel the need to distinguish myself from others through social status, including platonic and casual friends, along with my hopes, dreams, and wishes.
I don't think that one. I don't think you have a need to establish yourself through social status.
That one, yeah. But
I can see you liking, having your friends, like you're good at having the platonic and casual friendships and all of that stuff, like that part.
Yeah.
But I don't think you are one of those people who's like, well, I need my social status.
Oh, yeah. I think more so just like the distinguishing myself from others.
Yeah.
I like to be different.
Independent.
I like to do things that nobody else is doing. And then I get really mad if they do my idea.
Oh, yeah, I know. I've grown up long enough with you.
I do not think that copying is the greatest form of flattery. I think it is mooching off my hard work. You couldn't tell, I am an only child. I was talking to my friend Lindsay the other day, and she's also an only child.
Mm-hmm.
And so she kind of gets things a little bit differently than my other friends do when it comes to parents and how they deal with your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking, and I was like, people always assume that because I say only child, like, oh, you're going to be spoiled, entitled, whatever. And I'm like, I'm never those things. But I will always own up to the fact that I love being the center of attention.
Yeah.
So,
oh, yeah.
like, I will never. Now, granted, I have stage fright. I don't like to be that much of the center of attention.
See, that's the funny thing. Stage, I can be the complete center of attention, but put me in like a group of people and everyone's like staring at me. I'm like, I don't.
Oh, I can work a room.
I know.
But yeah, because I got 100% of my parents' attention all the time. And so I want 100% of people's attention all the time.
I got it for 4 years and then someone came along.
Ruins everything.
Love you.
So my birthstone is a topaz, which I don't like because it's yellow.
But
it provides great strength and protection from a range of common illnesses.
Which is kind of cool.
And I kind of feel like that's definitely true because when I get sick, I get like really sick because I don't get sick that often.
Right.
Maybe
you won't get your yearly sickness this time.
I haven't gotten it.
Well, you got it before the school ended this year, like before school ended. You got it like 2 to 3 weeks beforehand.
I did?
Mm-hmm. How do I remember your sicknesses?
That I just blocked most of that year out.
Because you were saying how awful of a year it was because you got sick earlier than normal. Mm-hmm.
That tracks.
Yeah.
And I have a birthday joke.
Oh, okay.
Or a birthday riddle, I should say.
A riddle?
Joke
okay.
riddle. Joke riddle.
Okay.
So, a man invited 3 of his best friends over to celebrate his 25th birthday. After singing happy birthday and blowing out the candles, he shot every single one of them dead. Why?
How many friends?
3.
3 friends.
And him.
Mm-hmm. I don't know.
So, it's a blind man and his friends, and they went hiking a few months before his birthday. Unfortunately, they lost themselves and got trapped in a mountain. And a week went by, and they experienced a food shortage. And the friends, knowing that this man was blind, faked a pact saying that they would each cut off one arm for food. The blind man willingly agreed. However, he was actually the only one to cut off his arm, and his friends secretly kept all their arms. And they were only exposed when they clapped for him on his birthday.
I don't know how I didn't get that.
I think you read it.
That is... That was so stupid.
I know. And when I read it and I read the answer the first time, I was like, how the fuck is anyone supposed to know that he's blind?
And that they went camping.
Like, it offers no hints, but the explanation's really funny.
Because I'm like trying to think math. I'm like, okay, 3, 1, that's 3 of them. 2 plus 5 is 7.
None
something
of
with that.
Information you're given is helpful. I just liked the answer.
I liked it.
What's your tale, Nightingale?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Not bad. All right.
We only got one left after this. So
oh, no.
I don't know if I should find new ones or pick one and stick with it.
I don't know. That's going to be a really deep decision you have to make.
Well, given the fact that it's easier just to pick one and stick with it, I'll probably do that.
Probably. I mean, you can do what I go. So what are you telling me about tonight, Mackenzie?
Yeah, but I like it when it rhymes.
I do too. Indeed. Yeah, no.
And what you talking about, Willis, was great, but that's technically somebody else's line.
Yeah.
Wanted my own.
That's why you started to come up with things. Make one up on your own and then that will be your line.
I really like What's Kickin' Chicken.
That one's cute.
I just like my chickens. What's up, chicken butt? Instead of guess what? And then I say chicken butt.
Oh, guess why?
Chicken thigh.
Okay, let's get into this one. All right, so it was a normal night for the Aisenberg family on November 23rd, 1997.
That's not my birthday.
I know. William, 8, Monica, 4, and Sabrina, 5 months, were all put to bed by their parents, Steve, who worked in real estate, and Marlene, who ran a business teaching parenting skills. They lived in Valrico, Florida, in a 4-bedroom house in a Hillsborough County neighborhood right outside of Tampa. And this was a small, safe town, so a place where you don't think twice about keeping your doors and windows unlocked.
Sure.
This is also something that the family had done many times in the past.
Of course.
Marlene checked on her children once more around midnight before heading off to bed. It was the early morning of Monday, November 24th, 1997, when Marlene Aisenberg woke up and headed downstairs to make some coffee before her day started. As she made her way to the kitchen, she noticed that the laundry room door leading into the garage was open. She thought that was odd, but went back upstairs to her 5-month-old daughter Sabrina's room to check on her sleeping peacefully in her crib. But Marlene's world was turned completely upside down when she noticed that her daughter's crib was completely empty, to include her daughter's favorite yellow blanket.
Uh-oh.
Steve was awoken by the screams of Marlene. Quote, "We searched in the house, and that's when my wife noticed the garage door had been left open, and even worse, that the door leading from the garage to the laundry room and into our house was wide open." So that's what Steve said. Marlene immediately called 911 at 6:42 a.m. on
What about
November...
the other kids?
I'll get to it.
Okay.
So she immediately called 911 at 6:42 a.m. on November 24th, telling the operator that she needed the police, her baby had been kidnapped. But there was something weird with her phone call. So she called 911. She told him that her daughter was missing. The operator asked who else was in the house with her. So she said her husband and her 2 children. The operator then asked if the other 2 children were okay and were safe. Marlene said she didn't know and that she would have to go check.
Yeah, that's weird that she didn't. I mean,
so she checks, tells 911 that they're safe and in their beds. But what I found weird was, like, you notice one of your children is missing.
And you don't go immediately to check?
At least I've never been in this situation. I hope I'm never in this situation. But I would think you would go check on your other 2 children to make sure they are also okay.
Yeah.
Or, like, maybe they took the baby out of the crib and they're playing with the baby. Like, you know, I just feel like that's something you would check.
And I feel like if she's running around in a frenzy,
right?
Why didn't the kids wake up?
Something.
And so, like, maybe that's why she didn't need to get checked, because everyone heard her scream, so everyone came out.
Yeah.
Like, that would have made sense.
Yep.
But if she just straight up didn't go check, that's...
Yeah, because they were still in their beds.
Yeah, that's oddly confident that they're still there.
Right. So that's what I felt very weird.
Mm-hmm.
But anywho, the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office arrived to the Aisenbergs' house shortly after the call, and they wasted no time, immediately launching a massive search to find Sabrina and her alleged abductor. The news of the missing 5-year-old made global news and sent shockwaves through the community.
I thought she was 5 months.
Did I say 5 years?
Yes.
Oh, 5 months.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Yeah, 5 months old.
I remembered right this time.
There you go. Yeah, no, 5 months old.
Okay.
Marty Rosen, a journalist who worked for the St. Petersburg Times, said, quote, "This frightened a lot of people, terrified a lot of young parents. It was chilling for people who lived in the community. It was a quiet, safe, out-of-the-way place, and then a baby disappears." Members of the community and even others from outside of the community formed massive search parties to assist the authorities. The Hillsborough County Sheriff's Department, Florida Department of Law Enforcement, and the FBI were all involved. And everyone involved was working around the clock. Sometimes they had up to 40 detectives working per day, which is not the common number working per day.
Sure.
It actually ended up becoming the largest search this agency has ever put on.
Wow.
Helicopters were used, sniffer dogs came out, and all local dumpsters, woods, ponds, and everywhere in between was searched with nothing turning up. The house was, of course, searched, as well as Marlene and Steve's cars. So back in the house, investigators found 7 unidentified fingerprints, an unidentified blonde hair, and a shoe print near the baby's crib. All of this evidence was sent off to the crime lab.
That opened.
You will never hear about this evidence ever again.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And from the very beginning, the sheriff's office started to notice some odd things going on and started to kind of grow suspicious of the Aisenbergs. So first off, we have the open garage door and the open door from the garage leading to the house.
Right.
And with that, there were no signs of forced entry, no ransom note, and nothing from the house appeared to be missing, obviously, other than their child. The family's dog, Brownie,
No.
had been quiet all night, which didn't seem likely if an intruder would have been in the house.
Right.
But okay. I went on a lot of forums and a lot of people kept harping back to this fact about the dog. They're like, well, the dog didn't bark. And I was like, my dog doesn't bark.
Yeah.
Like, you can walk into my house and my dog is not going to bark.
Yeah.
It's not safe, but, you know, some dogs just don't bark.
That's true.
So people were like, well, my dog barks at all sounds. I'm like, that's your dog. Your dog barks at all sounds. Not just because your dog does this does not mean every dog does this.
Sure. I feel like the norm, though.
The norm is that dogs bark. But some dogs don't.
Right. Because my dog definitely barked.
Yeah, your dog
And
did.
so if someone...
My parents' dogs bark like crazy.
Yeah.
But Roy doesn't. Like,
Yeah.
if you startle him and knock on the door, he will bark. But if you're like...
But even then, it's just one bark.
Right.
It's like one wolf.
I know, it's so cute. I think it's because we got him and he was like not taken care of before we got him. And so I feel like he would have gotten in trouble for barking. So that's why he doesn't do it now. Because like we'll like be like, okay, bark. Like tell us you have to go outside. And it's just like and we're like, come on, you can be loud. Like bark, let it out. But anywho, that part was like, people were like, no, the dog would have barked. I'm like, but not always.
Not always.
So
it's
people kept
definitely
harping
not
on
something
it.
that can be your only reason for why something nefarious within the family is going on.
Exactly.
It's a one of the things that you can use, but it can't be your only argument.
Yes. A lot of these things are kind of just weird little arguments.
Yeah.
So when authorities did the initial search of the house, they also made note that there were fewer photos of Sabrina around the house than the other two children.
It's the baby.
Yes, I didn't find that weird either. I was like, your one child is 8, the other is 4, and the other is 5 months old. You've had 8 years with this one, 4 years with this one, and only 5 months with this one.
Yeah.
Of course you're going to have more pictures with the 8 and 4-year-old
Well,
because you've had more life with them.
And it's the 70s too. Like it's not like cameras were necessarily as readily available.
97.
Oh, I thought you said 77.
No, 1997.
Damn it. Back to 0.
But still, regardless, you've known the 2 other kids longer. You just had more time to take pictures.
And I feel like by the time that you get to, because I feel like I've seen it before where by the time you get to the 3rd kid, especially depending on the age gap, you don't have as many of them because it's your 3rd kid.
Right.
You know, not saying that they're not any less special, but it's like the first one, you have that new parent excitement.
Right.
You know, and then they have a sibling. And then it's like,
yes,
here's another baby. This is great. Bundle of joy. But
it's like you've had only 5 months.
Right.
How long does it take to get pictures developed from a freaking camera?
Right.
Right. So
exactly.
I didn't find that part weird. But again, a lot of like the cops found it weird. But in my opinion, I didn't think it was that weird.
Yeah. I mean, if there was 0 pictures.
Yeah, 0 would be weird. But they're like, there were less of her. It's like, well, yeah. She's only been on this earth for 5 months.
Yeah.
Of course there's going to be less of her.
Yeah.
Then we also have the first officer who responded to the scene. That officer said that Marlene and Steve, quote, did not appear very upset for parents who had just lost their daughter. Their demeanor was off and their stories weren't really matching up. They also questioned how nobody in the residence would have woken up to the intruder and why the family dog never barked. So that was like a big thing that kept coming back to. But some people are sound sleepers. Some dogs don't bark.
Oh, I know plenty of people that would definitely sleep through an intrusion.
Yes. There have been times like when Jared and I would wake up our parents on Christmas. We're like jumping on my dad to wake him up. Like he is the soundest sleeper.
Yes.
You know, Jared's a sound sleeper. To wake him up, I have to like thump him into the mattress. Like I have to get him bouncing so that he wakes up.
Extra basketball.
But it's like some people just sleep through anything.
Oh yeah, my sister's like that.
Yes. So yeah, someone can sneak through your house, grab stuff, and leave, and you're not going to know. But a huge cause for concern, and this one I agree, so this was concern and alarm, was when the authorities watched a home video of Sabrina right before she disappeared. She looked as though she had bruises on her face, and it looked like some of her hair was missing. So, when the Aisenbergs made a plea on TV for their daughter to be returned, many also said that they came off cold and detached. But Marlene said, quote, it took all the strength I had to say what I said, and then the minute I was done, I broke down in tears. But of course, the cameras were not put on me then. She and Steve also said that they were just numb from the grief.
See, I will say that whenever they say about, oh, it wasn't a typical for a mother grieving or for whatever, I'm like, that's the weakest, lamest excuse in the book.
Everyone grieves differently.
Right.
Just be like, maybe they become detached. Like when I get like really sad sometimes, you're not going to see a single tear. It's just nothing.
Especially if I'm around people I don't know. Like I'm going to be sitting there probably very quiet.
Yes.
But I probably won't be sitting there bawling.
No.
Not in front of people I don't know.
No. I am not a public crier. So neighbors were interviewed and questioned as well. Multiple neighbors did tell the authorities that there had been several attempted break-ins in the neighborhood of homes with small children. Which, 1, creepy, but 2, knock your door. Another neighbor, Pete McDonald, said that around 1 a.m. on November 24th, his dog started barking, so he woke up and went to let his dog out, as he did every night. So his dog would always bark in the morning. He would take him out, common thing. He said that when he was outside with his dog, he heard a baby crying somewhere off in the distance. He mentioned that he thought this was weird as none of his immediate neighbors had small children until his wife reminded him of baby Sabrina, which I just thought was weird. How do you not?
Because he's a guy.
And then I thought that too, because when it was like his wife reminded him, I was like, there you go.
Yep.
But what was weird was no one ever followed up with McDonald.
See, that's the thing. Like from other things you've told me, I'm like, see, those arguments, so to speak, or those blips of information, seem plausible to justify some sort of
Yeah.
something. But then you keep saying they're not going to come back to it.
Right.
And so I'm like, well, why?
Right. Yes. Yeah. This is one of our cops didn't really do their job kind of thing. So, like good worried parents, the Eisenbergs were very cooperative with the police at first. They took 2 polygraph tests, with Steve passing his right away. But when it was Marlene's turn, her first test ended up being inconclusive. She said, quote, "They told me it was inconclusive, and they told me that they expected it to be that because I was hysterical and everything, and my baby's gone, and they would expect that." She did end up taking a second test, but the sheriff's office wouldn't say if she had passed or failed, and to this day, those results have never been released.
The fuck?
Uh-huh. But then Marlene, she started to say that after the failure of her polygraph, so it makes it sound like maybe she did fail the second one.
Yeah.
But she said at that point, police's questioning became more aggressive. She even said that on the first day, they thought she was responsible. She recalls, quote, "A policeman looked me right in the eye and said, 'We think we know what happened.'" So it was immediate from the beginning. The cops were like, "You guys are, like, it's you," which could be why the evidence was sent away but never looked into. This man who could have more information was never interviewed again.
You see nowadays on these true crime documentaries of like cops getting frustrated with people because, they're like, oh, they think they're amateur detectives and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, but you hear stories like this where I'm like, any good detective, any good person could tell you that if you're supposed to be investigating, aren't you supposed to be presumed innocent?
Yeah.
Isn't that how that works?
We're technically innocent until proven guilty.
Right.
Right.
So
treat it as if you don't know who the suspects are.
Right.
Because you don't.
You can definitely, I understand
have
being
your
suspicious.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But to then come in and, do the things that they do during investigations, I'm like, no wonder people have taken it upon themselves.
Right. Because they're like, well, if you're not going to do it, I'll do it.
Right.
Yep. So when they started to realize that the authorities were kind of zeroing in on them as possible suspects, the Eisenbergs hired famed criminal defense lawyer Barry Cohen. Cohen immediately got to work and made it so that the police couldn't just talk to the family whenever they pleased. They would kind of have to go through him first and follow the proper channels.
Which honestly, I know they're always like, oh, that means that you're guilty and I'm like, no, that means that the justice system is fucked.
Always get a lawyer.
That person is actually smart.
Even if you are innocent, get a lawyer. Lawyer up. The moment police start talking to you, get a lawyer.
Even the fake procedural cop shows that I watch. And I used to watch and be like, yeah, get them. And now I'm like, don't say anything. Keep your fucking mouth shut. They don't have shit on you.
Get your lawyer.
Even though the main characters are like the cops and whatever, and I love them. And I'm like, I want you guys to do well, but don't fucking trick them. That's wrong.
Justice.
Like this one guy, I was just watching an episode yesterday, and he's like, I'm not going to say, I think I'm going to let my lawyer do the talking. And I said, smart dude. He committed the crime, but I was like, smart.
Get the lawyer.
Yeah.
So Cohen said the sheriff's office at the time was so interested in manipulating the evidence, they didn't spend the quality time trying to get the truth and find the baby. They thought they were guilty and they went out to look for the evidence to support it. So he makes a good point. They thought the Eisenbergs were guilty, so they're like, we're going to prove you guys were guilty. Yep.
That's why they say innocent until proven guilty.
Yes.
Although when they try to say, oh, we just want to eliminate you as a suspect. Bullshit. Bullshit. Your bullshit meter should be going off if they say that.
Making you suspect number 1. So the pair was looked into as suspects and were named as suspects, but they were never able to be charged with anything as there was never enough evidence to actually convict them.
Mm-hmm.
So here's where things get a little interesting. So just 3 weeks after Sabrina went missing, on December 13th, 1997, prosecutors were granted the right to bug the Eisenbergs' house.
Oh.
The recordings went on into January and February, so it was only supposed to be a couple days in December. It went all the way till February. This was only allowed after a blank looked at the home video. Who looked at the home video?
Prosecuting attorney?
Damn.
A judge?
This was only allowed after an experienced person looked at the home video of Sabrina. I can't remember what that word was. But they indicated that hair had been pulled out of the left side of her head and the area around her left eye was bruised. So that kind of gave the authorities the ability to be like, okay, something went on here.
Yeah.
Detectives also claimed that the hairdresser of the Aisenberg children said that she too noticed hair missing from the child's head. This was evidence enough that the parents may have had a hand in Sabrina's disappearance, so the bugging equipment was allowed to remain in the house.
Did they know?
Did they know what?
That their house was bugged?
No.
Okay.
No. So for the 79 days that the Eisenbergs' house was bugged, authorities recorded and listened to around 2,600 conversations between Steve and Marlene on 55 audio recordings.
Oh my God.
Which makes me think, how many conversations do I have with Joe? Do they count one as like I say something to him and then I go to the bathroom and then I come back and say something to him. Like, are those two different conversations? Are those just a continuation of the same conversation? Is it about different topics? There's no way to know. There's no way. So with this new information, all of the stuff that they heard through the recordings, and what the prosecutors claimed they heard on the tapes, on January 30th, 1998, the Aisenbergs were served subpoenas to appear before the grand jury for a federal indictment. The two tried to invoke their Fifth Amendment rights. So for those who need a refresher of the Fifth Amendment, it mainly means that the government must bear the burden of proof and defendants have no reason to help the government prove its case.
Plead the fifth.
But the government insisted that they appear before the grand jury. So on February 11th, they appeared and invoked their Fifth Amendment right, refusing to answer most questions.
Self-incrimination.
Right. So they denied the charges against them, and they said that none of the things that they're being accused of saying were actually things that they had said.
Okay.
In the tapes.
Oh, I'll get to
Read the receipts.
I'll get to what was said.
Or screenshots.
Half of our phone conversations are just screenshots. On September 9th, 1999, a federal grand jury returned a 7-count indictment against the Aisenbergs, and the couple was arrested. Steve was put into handcuffs at his work, and then the police went to the family's home. Marlene tried to call her lawyer first before letting the cops in, but they used a battering ram to knock down the front door and took her into custody.
Oh my God.
She was facing up to 30 years in prison, and Stephen was looking at about 20 on the charges that they conspired and lied to authorities about their daughter's disappearance. So they're not being charged with her disappearance, but they're being charged with, like, lying to the authorities about her disappearance.
Well, it seems like a bit of a stretch.
Okay, so now on to these tapes.
Mm-hmm.
So the indictment alleged that the prosecutors had gotten a few recordings of very interesting conversations that had occurred between the couple. One in particular was one conversation in which Steve had talked about killing Sabrina while high on cocaine. So while this is pretty bad, there was other damning fragments of conversations that were caught as well. On December 23rd, 1997, Marlene was heard telling Stephen, "The baby's dead and buried." She went on to say, "It was found dead because you did it. The baby's dead no matter what you say. You just did it." Steve then responded by saying, "Honey, there was nothing I could do about it. We need to discuss the way that we can beat the charge. I would never break away from the family pact and our story, even if the police were to hold me down. We will do what we have to do."
Oh, no.
The next day, December 24th, the tapes allegedly recorded Marlene saying, "Oh, Steve, I tried to save her and she died, and as we can't confuse them and we'll try it, hun, you know." Another recording from January 21st.
And was this actually played or was this just read?
I'll get to it.
Okay.
So another recording from January 21st, 1998 recorded Stephen saying, "I wish I hadn't harmed her," to which Marlene allegedly replied with, "I just can't take the rap for this." A month later, Stephen was heard asking Marlene, "They don't know the truth, right?" Where Marlene responded with, "Yeah, so in a way, you know, that means nobody knows what we did still," to which Stephen replied, "Exactly." And another fragment heard was by Marlene saying, "I hate you. I hate what you did to our tiny daughter." So Harry Cohen, who's not related to Barry Cohen?
Mm-hmm.
Is his name really Barry? Do we have Barry and Harry? It is Barry. So Barry and Harry Cohen, but they're not related.
It's okay. I have an interesting name in mind.
Wow. So he was either an officer or he was working for the defense or he was someone who was tasked with listening to the tapes. He said that a lot of what was heard was not audible. In one instance, the prosecutors heard Marlene say, "You said to fake it." The defense heard, "You spoke to David." In another tape, the prosecutors heard "the shed," while the defense heard "they said." So the defense hired former FBI forensic audio expert Bruce Koenig to listen to the tapes as well. But when he did, he wasn't sure he heard the same things that the prosecutors had heard either. The federal judge who had listened to the tapes finally declared them to be inaudible and the transcription was faulty. Yup. He also believes some of the fragments were taken out of context by authorities, especially the statements about the guy was a pediatrician who said there was the bruises. I have that written right here. So taken from the pediatrician and the hairdresser.
Mm-hmm.
So in February of 2001, the prosecution dropped the charges before the trial for the charges even began.
Yeah.
And so this is the whole...
I mean, that's the only evidence they have.
Right. And this is the whole thing. So, like, you watch a ghost hunting show.
Mm-hmm.
They get an EVP.
Mm-hmm.
They tell you what it says.
Right.
You listen. You don't hear that.
No.
Or you hear something, they say something, you hear something different.
Yep.
So it's one of those things where, like, you're trying to hear what they want you to hear. And if you're trying hard enough, you can hear it.
Yep.
But if you don't have, like, if you're not going into it hearing anything, you're not going to hear stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't able to watch the show. I think it was, like, there was Unsolved Mysteries. They've been on 2020. They've been on a ton of, like, this case has been on a ton of different things.
Okay.
And in one of them, they do play the tapes.
Mhm.
I didn't have a chance to listen to the tapes. But people are saying it just sounds like static.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way you're picking up what they're saying.
Yeah.
Then in February 2004, an appeals court ordered the federal government to reimburse the Eisenbergs almost $1.5 million for defense fees, pretty much saying that the prosecution was trying to lead the jury into a way that would make them look bad.
Mm-hmm.
And that what they did with the tapes and what they heard was wrong. This was done under the Hyde Amendment, which, quote, gives the court permission to award attorney's fees and other litigation expenses if the court finds that the position of the United States was vexatious, frivolous, or in bad faith.
Mm.
So pretty much saying that what the prosecution did was wrong, where
Yeah.
they're trying to like kind of lead the jury into saying
Yep.
like, oh my God, yeah, those tapes say like they killed their daughter. That's not what the tape said. In 2008, some interesting information also came forward from a police informant. His name was Dennis Byron, and he claimed in a sworn statement that the HCSO, so the police department,
Mm-hmm.
the detectives asked him to wear a wire to record conversations that he had with his cellmate about the Eisenbergs case. His cellmate was Scott Overbeck, who was in jail on a weapons charge. So apparently, Overbeck lived down the street from Tony Tranquillo, who was an investigator with the Eisenbergs lawyers firm. So
Okay.
the lawyers usually have investigators to go out and kind of gather information
Yeah,
before
yeah,
they do a case, which is a job I want to do. But they gather all the information to give to the lawyer for the lawyer to put the case together.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently this Tony Tranquillo guy was an investigator for that.
Okay.
He lived down the street from Scott Overbeck,
Who was then a cellmate with this guy.
who was the cellmate with the guy wearing the wire.
Got it.
Yes. So Byron stated that his cellmate Overbeck was asked to go to the Eisenbergs' house and pick up a boat with a baby's body inside of it.
A boat?
Uh-huh. He took that boat and disposed of the body in the water near the Courtney Campbell Causeway. It's near Tampa.
Uh-huh.
Under that statement, Byron also said that it was his impression that Overbeck was asked to do it by Cohen's investigator Tranquillo. So they wanted to ask him, like, hey, did you tell Overbeck to go take this boat? Like, were you involved in this? Well, he was unable to answer for any of what he did because he had died in 2006.
Damn.
So just a couple years, like 2 years before.
Damn.
Overall, it was reported that more than $300,000 had been spent between 2007 and 2008 on the investigation.
Yeah.
Just between those years. So that's not to mention all the years before and all
Yeah.
the years after. From the beginning, though, this is what Marlene thinks happened to Sabrina. Quote, I believe that someone came into our home and just took her. It had to be someone who wanted a baby so bad and they couldn't have one themselves, or they needed money so bad they would want to sell her. Steve thinks, quote, it could be that someone just watched Marlene and I and saw our habits of occasionally leaving the garage open and knew we had a baby. Or it could have been someone who knew us casually and then through others knew our habits. So anything is just pure speculation. So today, the Eisenbergs are living life-free. Both work as real estate agents and they live in Maryland.
Oh,
This is where they moved in 1999, so 2 years after she went
that
missing.
makes sense.
They moved back into Steven's parents' house, his childhood home.
Mhm.
So again, people are like, why did you move? And people are like, because why would they want to stay in Florida
Right.
where their daughter disappeared from their house?
And they're hated.
right. He apparently, she had worked in parenting skills. She was never able to be hired.
Oh, I'm sure.
He wasn't able to be hired. He used to be a coach for kids teams. No one would let him be the coach. They pretty much told him, you can come to the games, but you have to stand over there and you can't really talk to anyone.
Oh my God.
So they were just kind of ostracized from everything.
Yeah.
So they moved. So they keep a bedroom for Sabrina and have recently changed out her Beanie Babies and toys because she would be over 20 years old at this point. So they're kind of, if she
Yeah.
were to come back tomorrow, she'd be happy with her room.
Yeah.
The Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office are still the ones responsible for finding Sabrina. Since 2014, 15 tips have come to the Sheriff's Office.
15?
15. Each tip has been thoroughly looked into, followed, and investigated, but nothing has come from any of these. Tips are still coming into the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Robert Lowry, the center's vice president, said that since the time she was reported missing, they have received in excess of 800 leads.
Wow.
Again, all leads have gone to the proper law enforcement entities and have been looked into. Sergeant Samuel Bailey is the current officer heading the case. Quote, there have been over 4,000 interviews conducted on the case at this point. Over 2,600 leads have been followed up on in all 50 states, Mexico, Canada, and some European countries. All the speculation about what occurred in the early part of the investigation is just speculation. Today, we are still currently focused on trying to find Sabrina Aisenberg and bring this case to a resolution. So, of course, the case was everywhere. So many people were aware of it. Age progression pictures have been circulating and are constantly being updated by different organizations to show what Sabrina would look like at this age. In April of 2003, a girl from Illinois known as Paloma Unknown came forward after a woman in Michigan saw Sabrina's missing poster and noticed a resemblance between her and the girl from Illinois. How a woman in Michigan knows a girl from Illinois, I really don't know. But regardless.
I think they're next to each other.
Yeah, but they're not right there. Minnesota's up here and Illinois is over here. No, Michigan is up here.
Mm-hmm.
And Illinois is like near it.
Mm-hmm. I think they touch.
Anywho, it just sounded weird to me. So the Eisenbergs were shown the picture of this Paloma Unknown, and they too agreed that there was a resemblance. So according to the Charlie Project, Paloma Unknown, this baby, had been taken into Mexico through the Texas border by a teenage girl who claimed to be her mother. The teen then gave the baby to a woman named Molly Garza, who had been working in a textile industry and was about to be deported back to Spain. But being deported, she wouldn't have been able to bring the baby with her.
Mm-hmm.
So Garza then, and all of this is alleged, gave the baby to a friend of hers who was a registered nurse at a migrant clinic. She then signed paperwork to put the baby up for adoption. So off-the-books adoption near the Mexico border was not unusual. Like, this was a very common thing that happened around this time. So the nurse gave the child to her sister and her sister's husband, who then raised that girl in Pontiac, Illinois. When the sister and her husband tried to legally adopt Paloma Unknown, they were denied because they didn't have the child's birth certificate. They had no information about her background. They're just like, we want to adopt this child.
Right.
So instead, the couple was appointed as her legal guardians.
Mm-hmm.
Several agencies have tried to ID this girl's parents, any information about her, but all attempts have been unsuccessful.
Oh, interesting.
So a DNA test was later done on her to see if she was the Eisenberg's daughter, but the DNA did not match.
Mm-hmm.
November of 2018, Marlene received a Facebook message from a 20-year-old girl who also believed that she was Sabrina. After talking for a bit, Marlene learned that the woman's birthday was very close to Sabrina's, and this woman also wrote that she could find no records or photos to document the first 5 months of her own life. And this woman also reached out to Marlene because she found that someone had her same social security number who was living in California. I'm not 100% sure how that one worked, and nothing ever, explained it. I was like, that makes literally zero sense, but okay. Steve and Marlene also couldn't help but notice a resemblance between this woman and their own 2 children, who are now in their 20s.
Mm-hmm.
The resemblance and instances around the case were so strong that they arranged to have the woman send her DNA to a private lab in hopes of comparing it. Around this time, a second woman also came forward, also stating that she was Sabrina. So both women agreed to give their DNA, so the DNA was collected and sent off to be compared, but when the results came back, neither were a match.
Mm-hmm.
Marlene says that she continues to get Facebook messages from women who believe they could be Sabrina, but so far none of them have panned out. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children continues to update an age-enhancing photo of Sabrina to show what she would look like today.
Right.
So every couple years, they update what she would look like. So I was on unsolved.com, and I was reading some of the comments on there. One lady named Taylane had commented back in 2015. So she said in 2015, she was at a mall in Virginia, and she saw Sabrina. She said there was a man standing behind her, just kind of watching her. Taylane described the girl as short, 5'3", with brown hair and dark brown eyes. Unsolved, so the website replied back to her and thanked her for her tip and that they had passed the information on to law enforcement.
Oh, wow.
A person who posted as anonymous said that the age progression photo she had seen looked exactly like her daughter's classmate at a high school in Venice, Florida. Again, Unsolved passed the information on to law enforcement.
I feel like they could have gone anywhere, but I feel like it would be more likely that she was close by.
You think so?
Well, the thing is Venice is pretty far from, it's like an hour and a half south of Tampa.
Oh.
So it's not like in the same area.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be far enough that you wouldn't find her in a
And you're not
search.
crossing state lines, so it's a lot less suspicious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The Eisenbergs are hoping that their daughter is out there somewhere still alive. They believe her case will one day be solved through DNA and genealogy. Their hope is constantly restored when they hear different stories of families being reunited.
Sure.
So there was one, Melissa Highsmith. She was kidnapped 51 years prior and was finally reunited with her family thanks to 23andMe. I know.
God, that's just crazy.
I know. So the Eisenbergs currently have their DNA on several familial genetic sites, hoping that one day Sabrina will take a test and they can finally be reunited with her. The Eisenbergs' 2 children, William and I think Monica, who were like 8 and 4, are now 33 and 29 at the time. Well, no, I think I did the math. So they're now 33 and 29.
Yeah.
William had a 2-year-old son named Nathan, and Nathan loves to play in Sabrina's room, which I thought was really cute. The Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, Public Affairs Office, ew, I don't like that name, provided the following statement about the decades-old case. Quote, years after the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office received the initial call to report her missing, the case of Sabrina Aisenberg remains an active and ongoing investigation. Loved ones have missed her birthdays, proms, and graduations, all memories that would have spanned decades in the making. The only victim here is Sabrina herself, and she deserves answers. As detectives near 25 years of searching for those answers, we continue to urge the public to come forward should they have any information. Please contact the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office at 813-247-8200 with tips that we can look into further. So anyone, if you have information on the disappearance of Sabrina Aisenberg, you're asked to contact the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office at that same number or the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children at 1-800-843-5678. And we'll put those in the show notes as we always do. So there you have it, the case of Sabrina Paige Eisenberg, who disappeared from her home on November 24th, 1997.
Wow.
Yeah.
Cray cray.
I hope she's still alive.
I'd hope so too.
She looks like just like a cute girl, and she looks like your typical person who, if I saw her walking down the street, I wouldn't be like, oh.
She doesn't like stand out in any way.
No, she's just like your typical girl.
What do you think happened?
Okay, so when I first chose this case, I had just read one quick article and I was like, yeah, this sounds good. I thought the parents did it.
Yeah.
I was like, they're guilty. Like, this is them.
Yeah.
But I think it's because that article really painted them in a way that they did it.
Sure.
So the more I read into it, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like
Mm-hmm.
they could have been responsible,
Mm-hmm.
but also at the same time, or this could be the biggest tragedy of their entire lives.
Correct.
You know, so I don't know.
Yeah.
And I don't think like, oh, they didn't have pictures. Oh, their dog didn't bark. I don't think those are valid arguments.
No.
Dogs don't bark. Sometimes you don't have pictures of a 5-month-old as many as an 8-year-old. I could see like the garage door was open. So what someone said was that there was the person breaking in, or who there had been the reports of break-ins. The person wasn't trying to break in. They were looking for the opportunities. So if your door is unlocked, they're going to go in.
Yeah.
But also, I read somewhere, I didn't know where to include it. So the dad, Stephen, he was constantly on the phone with his brother.
Mm-hmm.
And as they were bugging the house. So he was constantly on the phone with his brother, and they're waiting to see, like, you know, is a call going to come in from like someone wanting ransom or someone trying to say, like, I have your daughter.
Yeah.
He was always on the phone with his brother, and a call was coming in. So this is before you could really see caller ID. You would just get the beeps on the phone.
Yeah.
So a call is coming in, and he just keeps ignoring it. And he just keeps talking to his brother.
Oh,
and so people heard the tapes, and they're like, you can hear the beeps. Like, he claimed he couldn't hear them. You can hear them. So it's like, if you're missing your daughter,
right,
you're not going to touch your phone.
Right.
You are going to make sure that phone line is open to receive any call you're going to receive.
Right.
So that was another weird thing that, like, there are just, like, you have those weird things.
Yeah.
But then you also have the parts where I'm like, I don't think they did it.
Yeah. I feel like if they did do it, it would have been because of some sort of accident or whatever.
That was another big theory that people had.
You would have found her.
Something, yeah.
You know, like, I don't know. I just feel like she's gone without a trace, which makes me feel like she's been kidnapped by someone and has grown up under this other identity.
Right. Because the whole boat story with, like, the body or whatever, that was proven to not be real.
Right.
You know?
So, I don't know. I just feel like there would have been more evidence of something.
Right.
And those kids are little, and they see a lot more than parents think they do, and they don't know how to lie. So I feel like if it was something that had happened in the home, like an accident, they probably could have gotten the kids to say something.
And a lot of things that people keep kind of bringing it back to is the John Benet Ramsey case.
I was thinking about that.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's the whole, like, parents are thought of to have done it. Sibling is thought of to have been included. Like,
but didn't they
involved.
find her in the house?
Yeah, she was in the house.
Right.
But the whole, like, they didn't know who did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's an episode of Criminal Minds.
Oh, we're talking about Criminal Minds. What?
So there is someone who's been kidnapping little boys, and, you know, FBI comes in. This kid just got kidnapped. They finally find him, but they can tell that something's not right. And it ended up being that he had nothing to do with the other case, but his younger brother had gotten really mad at him and, like, hit him or something, ended up killing him.
Oh.
Yeah. And so the parents called their friend, the police chief, bring him over, and they came up with the whole ruse of, like, and did the press conference and all that. So
yeah, so there's no way to know. They're still hoping that one day she'll come home.
Yeah.
She was 5 months in 97. She's like 26-ish.
And I also feel like if there's still, I mean, I guess you could keep it up, but I don't know. I feel like if you're still talking about it now, you're still interacting with people on social media and things like that. Like, that's a really long time to put up a ruse.
That is.
Like, that's a really long time to keep pretending that you think your daughter's alive, even if you know she's dead.
And some of the comments that I was reading were so annoying. People are like, they look so happy on social media. Like, they have the perfect family. It's like,
they're
not
literally the fucking point.
For the rest of their life, they're not going to frown in
Right.
every picture. Like, yes, the first couple months, of course, they're probably not going
Who
to
the fuck
smile.
posts ugly pictures?
Right.
Defeats
And
the
they're real
purpose.
estate agents. Of course,
Yeah.
they're not going to post an ugly picture of themselves. They're trying to get business.
Right.
Like, it's just some people would try to pull at anything, be like, it's them, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, but stop. Stop with your weird
Yeah.
theories. Like, stop.
I don't feel like it could be them,
Oh, it very well could be.
but I don't feel like there's enough to say that it was them. I feel like there's more to say that it wasn't than
Yes.
there was.
Yep. There's still weird things about them.
For sure. There's definitely some weird aspects, but not enough to make me think that they killed their daughter.
Right. That's how I feel.
So,
But yeah, so that's a case that happened on your birthday
wow.
when you were just 3 years old.
A really cute birthday. A really cute picture of me on my 3rd birthday blowing out my candles, and I'm so excited.
You're like, oh, this cake is mine.
Probably.
You'll have to post a baby picture of you.
Oh, of course. I was adorable up until the age of like 8,
Then
9.
we all went downhill. Damn.
Well, in 3rd grade, I got braces. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But it was just on my first 4 teeth right here.
Oh, you're one of them.
Because I sucked my thumb.
When Jared was younger, he used to suck us thumb when we said, you need to stop, you're going to get buck teeth.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what mine was, but I had those from 3rd to 5th grade. And then I got them off. And that's when I kept losing my retainer.
I did 3rd to 5th grade too.
And so they cemented it into my mouth. This was like one of the ones I was supposed to take it in and out, but I would take it out and then lose it because I was fucking 10.
I don't know why they ever trusted children with like these $1,000 pieces of things. Like you wrap it up in your tissue, like your napkin at lunch, and then it goes in the trash.
Especially because I'm like, looking back and knowing how I am now, I am so absent-minded. And if I am at lunch, I've taken my retainer out, put it on my tray, talking to my friends, you think I'm going to think, oh, put that shit back in your mouth.
Yeah, no.
No. And then middle school was weird.
Middle school is weird for everyone. If you looked good in middle school, then you didn't have the true middle school experience.
Well, kids nowadays.
I know, they didn't have the true middle school experience.
Yeah.
I have curly hair, and I always wanted bangs because everyone had bangs, and I was so jealous that everyone else had bangs and I couldn't have them. And so I would cut my own curly hair bangs, and then they looked like little bug antennas. And so Mom makes fun of me calling them my antennas.
I also was jealous that people had bangs, and I wanted bangs, and then they did not look good. There's too much bang.
And then I wanted layers because layering was really
Yep.
popular.
Mhm.
You can't do layers with curly hair because it looks really stupid.
Yeah.
I saw a girl with layered curly hair and I said, that's why I haven't done it. We are going to have to post like a throwback picture one day of us in middle school. Y'all will be in for a treat. Oh, those are embarrassing.
There's actually one really cute picture of us. We were somewhere. Jesse's in it too. And it was when I had like kind of dyed my hair red-ish.
Oh, yeah. I know exactly which one you're talking about.
Free picture.
That is a good picture, except my bangs are going meep.
Oh, I look really great.
Because I had also gotten into the habit of straightening my bangs. Because
Yeah,
that was
we
the
all
big
did.
look. The straight bangs and the curly hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Did the same thing.
Wow.
Or the tss as I'm looking hair.
And then there was the wet to dry straightener, which if you had that, oh
God.
you had it all.
The funny thing now is that I'm like, God, I know what I'm doing so much better.
Yeah.
I wish just for like a day or two, I could go back with the skills that I have now and just walk in and be like, eat your fucking heart out, guys.
But yeah, we've come a long way.
Thank God.
Thank God. Yeah.
Straight teeth. Your teeth were jacked.
Oh God, they were so
They were
bad.
so bad.
They were so bad. Like, oh my God, when you do that first
Oh.
picture at the orthodontist, when they take a picture of your teeth before anything,
Your teeth were crossed.
they were awful. And now I take so much pride in them.
Oh, for sure.
Oh my God. I floss every night.
Oh, wow.
Because I hate when you go to the dentist and like, you don't floss. I'm like, but I do. And they're like, but you do it wrong. And it's like, okay, thanks. All right, but yeah, so that's my case. So on to my casual thing. What are you telling me about tonight, Mackenzie?
Lame.
I know, I'll think of one. But Kenzie doesn't rhyme with anything. Kenzie, Benzie, Potenzi. See, it doesn't rhyme.
Yeah, you definitely had to get crafty with it for sure.
I'll get crafty.
So, the best way to describe this story is the most mysterious solved murder case I've ever stumbled upon.
The most mysterious solved murder case.
Mhm.
All right.
So, while the story itself is very tragic, the mystery and conspiracies that surround it make it fascinating.
All right.
So, definite trigger warning. This case does involve the death of children and topics of suicide. Elmo, that's his name. Elmo James Noakes was born in January of 1903 in Springville, Utah. He served in the Marine Corps with his brother Robert from 1920 to 1922. In July of 1923, Elmo married Mary Elizabeth Hayford. Mary had a daughter, Norma, from her previous marriage to Roland. I practiced this earlier and I forget what I said. Roland Brunningham Sedgwick.
Wow.
I know.
They really, it was such like elegant names. Maybe not elegant, but like.
Fancy.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I hear Roland, though, I think of Roland from Schitt's Creek.
Same.
And I can't, it's not a fancy name anymore.
I immediately, that's what I pictured.
Yeah. Roland shit.
Roland shit. They didn't discover anything. They divorced.
They discovered their love wasn't working.
Yeah. So they divorced. Mary remarried Elmo.
Jeez.
Sounds so weird. Trust me, I don't call him Elmo unless I have to.
Yeah, I don't like it.
And together they had 2 daughters, Dewilla, born on May 2nd, 1924, and Cordelia, born June 2nd, 1926.
I actually really like the name Cordelia.
Me too.
I think it's very pretty. That's the name of the main person in American Horror Story Coven.
That's great.
Watch it.
Why?
Because you'd love it. It's
I
witches, it's
also
New Orleans.
love the name Penelope, and so I watch Criminal Minds.
You're just making an argument for why you should watch this.
No. So in July of 1932, Mary Noakes died from septicemia hemolytic.
Is like dirty blood.
I think so. I tried to look it up, but the explanation didn't offer any clarity, so I just...
Don't you love when the definition doesn't make any sense?
Yeah. But it was following a self-induced abortion in Salt Lake City, Utah.
Wow, so maybe it's like we need safe and free, or not free, but like safe and accessible abortion options because it's healthcare. Wild. Oh my gosh, my grandma has been going through pictures and she found a picture of her going to like pro-choice rally.
Oh, I fucking love that.
Back like years and years ago.
That's awesome.
I'll show you after this. But I was like...
Little did she know you guys would be protesting the same thing.
I know. She's like, well, this like protest helped, you know, with Roe v. Wade. And I was like, wow, sad that 50 years later,
yeah,
we have to frickin' fight again.
Mm-hmm.
It was less than 50 years because mom was in the picture too. But still. But yeah, grandma's like, activism must be in our bones.
I love her.
I do too.
Elmo decided to move closer to family, so he picked up the 3 girls and they moved to Roseville, California. Noakes hoped that his 3 sisters would be able to help him raise the girls. He got a job at Pacific Fruit Express and was well liked in the community. He had a good reputation and nonviolent nature. He made good money at his job to provide his family a home, and soon his niece, Winifred Pierce, who was 18 at the time, came to work as his housekeeper to help take care of his children during the day. On November 11th, 12th, 1934, Noakes left his home with Winifred Pierce and the 3 girls, and no one ever saw or heard from them again.
All 5 of them? Oh my gosh.
So on November 24th, 1934...
The date, there it is.
There it is. Clark Jardine and John Clark.
No.
Mm-hmm. Clark Jardine and John Clark.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
And I was like, I wish Clark's last name was John.
I know. Wouldn't that be amazing?
Like,
Clark John and John Clark.
Right. So Clark Jardine and John Clark. They were traveling along Route 233 near Pine Grove Furnace State Park in Cumberland County, Pennsylvania, to cut some firewood. In the woods, the 2 men discovered a green blanket stretched across a small mound. The men believed it might be some sort of animal that someone had illegally hunted and was trying to hide. They gently pulled back the cover and were met with a horrific sight, with the bodies of 3 young girls all laying beside one another, almost as if they were sleeping.
Oh.
Clark and Clark knew something was wrong and that these girls were not alive. They ran to the closest place with a telephone and called the police. Police Chief Harvey Coons. Didn't you have a Coons?
Mm-mm.
No?
Nope.
Oh. He believed the girls were most likely sisters. They had been dressed in nice outfits and they looked very much alike. They all had gray eyes, freckles, and light brown hair.
Gray eyes.
I'm not going to lie. When I saw that in the newspaper, I was like, was that because they were dead?
I don't know.
Because you know how like they get foggy?
Yeah. Oh, here I am thinking gray eyes would be so pretty.
Yeah. I was like,
Oh, that's a good point. I actually don't know.
I was like, is that because they were dead? So they all had the same eyes?
You know what? I gotta look this up now because actually I'm very curious.
Because, like, there's blue-gray.
Oh, literally, that's a question people have looked up. Some people notice a loved one's eye color change after death, likening it to a dark blue color. It is because a hazy film covers the eyeball, giving the eyes a blue or gray-like appearance due to corneal opacity, or cataracts.
So I don't know if their eyes were actually gray.
Yeah.
Not sure. But they did have fair hair, like light brown, blonde.
Mm-hmm.
So it wouldn't be too far-fetched if they were like light blue.
Right.
So, but still. So because DNA wouldn't be intensely studied for another 20 years, and testing was still 60 years into the distant future, identifying the young girls was going to be difficult.
Yeah.
A black leather Gladstone suitcase was found a few days later about 3 miles away by John Noggle. A notebook in the suitcase had the name Norma written on it in what appeared to be a youngster's handwriting.
Oh.
That same day, in Altoona, many miles to the west, a well-dressed man and woman were found at a deserted Pennsylvania Railroad flag stop. They had both been shot. At first, there was no connection between the two adults and the dead young ladies, although the police were sure that that was the case.
And how far away was the truck stop and where they were found?
The kids in the 100 miles.
Oh, wow.
An estimated 8,000 people were questioned at scattered points across the country to try and identify the victims. Police distributed nearly 3,000 photographs of the victims and material evidence to law offices throughout the nation. More than 10,000 people came to view the 3 little bodies at Carlisle and the other 2 bodies in Duncanville, hoping to identify lost loved ones. Investigators were sent on clues to Ohio, New York, New Jersey, D.C. Thousands of telegrams, letters, long-distance phone calls, and radio broadcasts were put out in hopes of figuring out who these people were and what happened to them.
Jeez.
The clue that would tie it all together was found several days later in a field near McVeigh in Milford County, just south of Lewiston. A shiny 1929 blue Pontiac sedan was found abandoned at a spot favored by local teenagers as a lover's lane.
Oh, there's always a lover's lane.
Always.
They don't have those anymore.
No, because people just do it in their house.
These people had houses too.
Yeah, but it was the 30s.
Yeah.
You'd be sneaky. The car had California license plates, and they were soon traced to a man by the name of Elmo Noakes.
I hate that name.
I know, me too. It was Elmo Noakes who had been found dead at the train stop near Altoona.
Oh.
And using the description of the car, the physical features of the dead girls, and his fingerprints from military records, the bodies were identified. And the girls were Norma, who was age 12 at this time, DeWilla, age 10, and Cordelia, age 8, and of course, Winifred Pierce, 18.
Mm-hmm.
Further confirmation of the identity of the 5 bodies was made by close relatives of Pierce and Noakes. Pierce had a deformed left foot, which apparently had helped her family, confidently identify her.
Yeah.
Robert Noakes, Elmo's brother, said he saw photographs of the girls and knew they were his nieces.
Mm-hmm.
An autopsy of the girls indicated that they had been strangled or otherwise suffocated, but no visible signs of violence.
Okay.
So they think that it was maybe smothered, they weren't strangled.
Okay. So no bruising and no broken bones there or
Correct.
whatever. Okay.
Pierce had a gunshot wound to the heart and another to the head, and Noakes had a single gunshot wound to the head with a .22 caliber rifle that had been found between the bodies. So the idea being, killed himself.
Right.
The 3 young girls were buried in Carlisle with hundreds in attendance.
Oh.
Boy Scouts and Legionnaires carried the children to their final resting place. 2 Protestant clergymen and a Catholic priest said prayers over the casket that were laid next to one another.
Is it because they didn't know what their religion was?
I think so.
Okay.
The veterans of the Carlisle American Legion Post had raised money for the girls' funeral. Huge bouquets of flowers were sent by sympathetic townspeople. Their caskets were placed so that the heads of the children pointed west toward their home in California.
Oh.
Winifred Pierce and Noakes were also buried in the same cemetery as the 3 girls, and the American Legion honored Noakes for his military service with full military honors about 100 feet from the graves of his daughters.
Wow.
So through their investigation, police were able to kind of piece together the events between Noakes taking his family out of California and going to Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
So on October 31st, 1934, Noakes had purchased a blue sedan, which was later found.
Right. Mm-hmm.
November 11th, 12th, they leave home, and he has Winifred Price with him, his niece, and the 3 girls. But he did leave behind 2 weeks' pay, about $50 that was owed to him, which at the time is a lot of money.
So question. So if Winifred is his niece, how are the daughters related to Winifred? What would that relationship be?
Cousins.
Cousins. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, his car Guess how much you paid for it?
$3,000. How much? Lower?
$46. I'm sorry. It was one payment of $46. He was going to make another payment later on.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I want a $46 car.
Yeah.
It'll probably be a piece of shit here, but I want a $46 car.
Sometime also in like November 17th, 18th timeframe, the family had stopped at a diner in Philadelphia and had shared a meal.
Okay.
So a woman by the name of Anna Lafarve.
LaFave.
Sure. I wasn't sure if it was Lafarve or Lafave because it has the R.
Some letters are silent.
I know.
Like my last name is technically a silent R.
Technically, yeah.
Fortier. There's no way I would look at my last name and know that. People look at it, they're like, oh, is it Fortier? I'm like, how do you know that?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't
Because
know.
to me, I'm like, it's Frontier.
I know. We've got Frontier, we've got Portier.
Jeez.
We once got Portier on our black belt, so it's like stitched in. So we changed the P and we drew Sharpie on it to make the P and F. So it was Fortier. And like, do you want a new one? It's going to take however many months. I said, we fixed it. We're fine.
Good. Yeah, exactly.
I was like, when I get my second degree, which never happened. Because they changed the requirements. I was at the requirement and I was getting ready to test for my second degree. Everyone, I have a black belt.
Yeah, her freaking email was black belt cutie or whatever.
I'm not going to say it, but it had black belt in it. But yeah, so I had reached, because you had to get a certain amount of stars. And so I reached a certain amount of stars and we were under new management and they increased the amount.
That's lame.
And I was like, are you kidding me? I was training to test for my second degree. All right, back to our
Anyway.
story. A little sidetracked. It's probably the
wine.
I was just going to say, it's probably the wine. We're drinking 7 Moons today. 7 Moons red blend.
Yeah.
Mackenzie brought it over. She's like, I know you've had a long week. Roy was sick earlier this week. I've been working long days to make up the time. It's been a long week.
It's been a day.
And it's only Wednesday.
Exactly.
My coworker, every time we meet up and like we'll go get lunch together, as we're leaving, she goes, okay, have a day.
A woman by the name of Anna LaFave told police that she and her young son were eating at a restaurant in Philadelphia on November 18th when a couple with 3 young girls came in and sat down at the next table.
How old is Elmo?
His 30s. If he's 1903 and it's 1934.
And so Winifred's 18.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Just wondering if they would like look like a couple, you know? Like if someone would look at them and be like a couple with 3 kids rather than
Maybe
a dad and 4
in
kids.
The 30s, yes.
Right. Okay.
The man told the children that they would have to share a meal. Overhearing this, LaFave invited the youngest to eat with her and her son, and the parents readily agreed. LaFave told police that the youngster told her, quote, Daddy is looking for work. I'm kind of tired, and this food tastes awfully good.
Oh.
Lewis Ellis, who was the owner of that restaurant, remembered the family coming in and identified a photograph of Elmo Noakes. Noakes had asked him if any work was available, offering to do any kind of work at all, and Noakes was quoted as saying, quote, my children are beginning to be a burden to me.
Oh.
The owners of a tourist camp near Philadelphia informed police that a couple from California with 3 children...
That scared me. My heart's like beating. I don't know why that scared me. I'm like so focused on your story.
The owners of a tourist camp near Philadelphia informed police that a couple from California with 3 children had stayed there. They had a 1929 blue Pontiac sedan, and a blue washcloth that the family had left behind was given to police. It had a laundry mark which matched the mark on another washcloth that was found in the suitcase.
Okay.
And a shirt with a California label was also found in that suitcase. Noakes, Pierce, and the girls had stayed at a tourist home in Gettysburg, registering under a fictitious name. The following night, they camped at a location in Langhorne in the Philadelphia suburbs. The next few nights were spent at the tourist camp noted above, also near Langhorne.
Mm-hmm.
Leaving there and heading west again, police speculate that that was when Noakes decided to kill his daughters, leaving them in the woods of Cumberland County as he and Winifred Pierce drove westward until the car ran out of gas at McVaytown.
Mm.
So by then, Noakes and Pierce abandoned their blue sedan at McVaytown, Pennsylvania, and hitchhiked to Blair County. A truck driver reported picking up a man and young woman hitchhiking near Huntingdon.
Huntingdon.
I don't know if I spelled that wrong, and it's Huntington. Or if it's done. Whatever.
Really, there's no way to know at this point.
Honestly. He took them as far as Altoona, where the couple checked into a boarding house using another fictitious name. On November 23rd, 1934, Winifred Pierce sold her coat at a pawn shop in Altoona. Noakes purchased a rifle for $2.85.
Oh my God.
And it was that rifle that ended the lives of Elmo Noakes and his young niece. The weapon, a .22 caliber, was found lying between the bodies. And then on November 24th, 1934, Norma DeWilla Cordelia were found dead under a blanket in Pine Grove Furnace Park. Their cause of death was determined to be suffocation by external means. So, side note, Norma's biological father, Avi, very upset about his daughter's death, but he had told a reporter, "My girl never would have suffered this fate if I had obtained possession of her."
Oh.
And apparently, though, after Mary died, Noakes was awarded custody because he'd been taking care of the children for 10 years at that point.
Right.
So, like, I felt bad, but I'm also like, doesn't sound like you were around.
Right. Like, right. Like you could have,
You could have.
you know.
You didn't. So by December 1st, 1934, the News Herald reported that the case was officially closed by Police Superintendent Major Lynn Adams. He told reporters, quote, "Our job ceased when we found who was responsible for the crime and established the identity of the principals. The only angle yet unsolved is what prompted Noakes and the others to make the 3,000-mile journey from the ghost.
Right.
The question has never been answered, although many have tried."
Naturally.
We have 6-ish theories
Oh.
of why he did it.
Okay.
Or what may have possibly happened. So, first one. Noakes is mentally ill and he's fleeing from an imaginary evil, and the children were killed to protect them from it. So the Pennsylvania State Police Superintendent, Major Adams, was convinced that an imaginary evil was the cause of this tragedy. He told Desert News, quote, "Mentally ill, Noakes feared he and his loved ones would come to harm. As far as police knew, there was no trouble from Noakes, and he had a good home and had been stocked with food." Major Adams said, quote, "Considering everything, I can think of no reason why a sane man would do what Noakes did. I believe that Noakes' mental illness suddenly grew worse. As it fastened upon him, he began to live in terror of some imagined evil. Probably he thought some terrible thing was after him, would destroy him and his loved ones. Finally, his tortured mind drove him to flee. That is the first impulse of a terrorized man. Hastily, he bought a car, took the Pierce girl and his children, and sped eastward. He must have driven like a madman because he almost crossed the continent in 7 days, and the car several years old."
Oh my gosh.
Which I didn't think that was weird to get from California to Pennsylvania in 7 days.
In an old car when the speed limit's probably like 30 miles per hour.
True.
Hold on. Let's look it up. We have the
It
internet.
takes 5 days.
Between 4 to 6 days.
So
It requires 8 to 10 hours of driving each day. So it's like you can't make pit stops, but you could do it in 4 to 6 days.
I definitely thought it was fast, but more importantly, I'm like, why the fuck did you go all the way over to Pennsylvania?
Yeah.
Like, across the damn country.
To be far away.
I guess so.
As far away as you can be.
I guess so. We don't know what caused him to leave Philadelphia and return westward into the mountains, unless it was the irresistible urge to keep moving away from the thing he thought was pursuing him. But the Press Tribune reported on the fact that the Noakes party dined in a restaurant while on limited finances, when much more food could have been purchased had the group prepared it themselves.
Right.
It goes on to mention how Noakes was of average intelligence, and all who knew him stated he was of keen business mind. Relatives said that it was strange that he wouldn't have taken advantage of the more economical manner while on their journey. E.J. Taylor, the mother of Mary Noakes, so the grandma, had just visited her grandchildren in Roseville, California, about a month before they had left for Pennsylvania, and would later say, quote, "They seemed happy and were going to school. Their father appeared satisfied with his work, and there was not the slightest indication that he might do anything like this."
Yeah.
Theory number 2. Rule number 2. Can't bring people back from the dead. 10 points if you know the movie.
Are you asking me?
Mhm.
Aladdin.
Okay.
Genie.
Yeah.
When he's giving the rules when Aladdin's stuck in the cave. Mackenzie. I know.
Mic drop. So, the second one is that automobile exhaust accidentally killed them. And then
No.
Noakes and Pierce, stricken with fear of being held responsible, committed suicide.
That's stupid. How could the exhaust kill the 3 kids and not them? Were they standing behind the car all taking turns on the exhaust? No. This is a stupid one. I don't like this one. Nope.
Okay.
This didn't happen. Who came up with this one?
Chief of police.
No, this is a stupid one.
Okay.
I hope this isn't the one you thought, because I
know.
like this
I
one.
thought this was stupid too because I was like, they weren't in a garage.
Right.
How are they going to die from that?
No, this is
Like, anyway, chief of police, E.E. York, did not believe that Noakes murdered his children because of his well-known affection and love for his children.
Oh.
He thinks that Noakes and Pierce found the children killed by carbon monoxide poisoning and overcome with tragedy and fear they would be suspected of having done away with their children, they entered into a suicide pact.
No.
He also thought it might have been possible that Noakes might have slain Miss Pierce in a frenzy of fear and grief over the death of his children.
See, that's more likely that like the kids died somehow.
Mhm.
And then in the frenzy and grief. I can see that part of this, but it's just like, yeah, did you put them in a garage and then leave and then come back and you're like, oh no? Like,
Right.
No.
No.
That one sounds stupid.
3.
Okay, next one.
A cult killing due to a sign or mystic symbol found upon the head of Norma Sedgwick.
Did she have a weird head?
And she had a thing. She had
Right.
a weird thing on her head.
Oh, okay.
Dr. Wilbur H. Norcross, Dickinson College psychologist. So the psychologist dude.
Yes.
He did not describe to the theory that Noakes went mad with this hallucination and that something was chasing him.
Yeah.
He said that there was a sign of a cross and a circle found on the forehead of one of the children that was the mark of a cult or sect. He told reporters, quote, "This case is as much a mystery as ever." Dr. L.U. Zeck of the York County coroner and authority on Pennsylvania hex cults
Oh.
also said that he believes that the child was branded for some mysterious reason. And he does not believe that Noakes is responsible for his children's death.
Wow.
So I think a satanic cult did it.
But then how does that describe him and Winifred being dead? It doesn't.
Mm-mm.
Okay. We're just going to ignore that part.
Mhm.
All right. Mhm.
Theory number 4. Winifred did it, and
Oh.
Noakes killed her in a blind, grief-stricken rage.
Mm.
So this theory said that Miss Pierce was worried about the trials and tribulations of caring for the children along the long journey, and she decided to get rid of them. When Noakes learned of this, he killed Winifred and then himself. But the Press Tribune found flaws in this theory by pointing out that Noakes was hardly, if ever, separated from the girls long enough for this to even take place.
Right.
And additionally, it was known that Winifred adored the girls because
Yeah.
she took care of them
Right,
when they were in
exactly.
California.
Exactly.
Number 5. The family were being pursued by an armed gang.
Okay.
So police couldn't determine why the license of the Oldsmobile that Noakes had purchased had been destroyed. The motor number had been partially defaced.
Okay.
The Sacramento dealer who had sold the car to Noakes stated that the motor number was in normal condition when the transaction had been made. This led some to believe that Noakes was actually being pursued by a person or persons unknown. The records of the case show that the family left in a hurry. They left
Mhm.
food in their house. Even apparently a couple lights had been left burning.
Oh.
Burning, not on, because it's
Oh.
the 30s.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. When police found the car and the identification had been damaged, this led maybe some to believe that it might have been a gang killing.
And it could make sense too for why they went from one coast to the other coast.
And
like
fast.
just driving.
Yeah,
Right. Like
and
we're not
fast.
stopping, we're just going.
Mhm.
Because, yeah, that one article we read said 4 to 6 days if you're driving 8 to 10 hours a day.
Mhm.
And back then, cars weren't as good. You probably had to fill up more. You probably didn't have, there.
And he
It
had an
makes
older
sense.
car.
Right. So it would
Even
make
for the
sense for
time.
why it would take 7 days.
Yeah. So the theory that Noakes wasn't responsible at all for his children's death is dependent on when the bodies were left in the woods, which they don't have a definitive time of when he actually left them there.
Because it was so long ago.
Right. So I pulled a snippet from one of the articles because it kind of explained why, if this is true, then he didn't do it. But if it's not true, then he could have done it.
Oh, how interesting.
So it says, although it rained on South Mountain the night before the children were found, the blankets were not wet, some investigators had pointed out. They were damp, others had countered, but it was agreed that if the children were put there that night after the rain, then Noakes and the woman had nothing to do with the slaying.
Mm-hmm.
State police came to the conclusion, though, that the bodies were put there 2 nights before and killed by Noakes.
Okay.
So, like, when they were discovered the day before, it had rained.
Right.
And so if they put it there the night before, which is what everyone assumes,
Mm-hmm.
why isn't the blanket wet?
Right.
And then that would also mean that if they put it after the rain, so like early the next morning,
Right.
then the 2 of them were already dead, so they couldn't have done it.
Right. Okay.
So that's kind of their...
So it's like really determining of like, is this blanket wet?
Yeah.
But it could also be damp because like morning dew.
And it's in the woods. Like it
Right.
wasn't like out in the open.
Right.
So, and you have no idea at what point in the night they put them there too.
Yeah,
It could have
exactly.
stopped raining.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things with that. Like when I did cross country, we would set up like at a meet, we would set up so early that there would still be dew on the ground. So
Yeah.
everything would be soaking wet.
Yep.
And then as the day goes on, it dries up because the sun comes out.
Yep.
And it didn't rain at all. It's just that you were out there when the grass was still wet from the
Right.
dew.
Right. Well, it's cold too. So,
I mean, still though,
Yeah.
it's like kind of this the concept.
so the official theory
Okay.
is that Noakes and Pierce fled so that they could be together.
See, there was a little tinkle in the back of my brain.
That's like the big one that everyone kind of.
Right.
No one, like in all the articles, no one specifically says it,
Right.
but they do talk a lot about family drama.
Alluding to it.
Yes. So Russell Pierce, who is the brother to Winifred,
Okay.
said that there had been a dispute over the care of the children. It had broken out of a 2-year residence of Noakes in California since his wife had died. So I guess 2 years after he had moved there. Russell had said that his mother and other relatives had cared for the children, but then the previous July, Noakes took them to live with him in a small white framed house, which is not a good thing. And that was when Winifred started working there during the day, but she would go back home to her mother's at night. Noakes' brother, Robert, told reporters, quote, "There had been trouble in the family for years. I guess that's why Elmo left home." Robert was planning to move out of town soon himself and spoke with Elmo on November 10th and said that he gave no indication that they had planned to just pretty much drop from sight.
Right. Up and leave.
Robert also claimed that, quote, "There was trouble in the Pierce home. Mrs. Pierce and her husband didn't get along sometimes. My brother made a home for Winifred. It was more pleasant there, and so when he left, I suppose she felt she would be happier with him."
I mean, I can see that.
2 of Noakes' sisters were given a suspended 90-day sentence for disturbing the court because they had been berating their sister, Winifred's mother, and so she took them to court.
Oh my gosh.
One of the sisters, Miss Gibbs, accused Winifred's mother of spreading stories about Elmo. She said, quote, "If it hadn't been for your family, he'd still be alive." They're fucking sisters.
Right. Our family.
Right. She further claimed that she, quote, "warned Elmo not to have anything to do with her. Winnie could make him do anything she wanted him to."
Oh.
Both sisters denied the charges against them in court, claiming that they had merely wished to console their sister and to inquire about Winifred's foot deformity in order to help identify her body.
Yeah, okay.
Upon being sentenced, the 2 sisters screamed furiously and disrupted the court, requiring the judge to restore order and then hence charged the sisters with disturbing the court.
Oh my gosh.
So family,
Yeah.
not great. When police asked the railroad fruit shipping organization where Noakes worked, they said that he hadn't been in any trouble. He had a good record. But when he had left, he did fail to collect almost 2 weeks of pay that was due to him.
See, that's always the weird thing too.
Right.
When people, like, if they're gonna go somewhere, why don't you collect the money?
Right.
So it makes it feel like it's more one of the theories where it's like they had to leave, like, quickly.
And even his brother had, like, moved to, like, Arizona for a little bit just to get away from the family. Because,
wow.
Yeah, it was a lot. Like, that's more so the brother than anyone else was, like, really emphasizing, like, no, there was drama. Why there was drama, no one actually really said. So this had led police to conclude that Noakes and Pierce fled so that they could be together, and Noakes' inability to find work and the threat of starvation was too much for Noakes and Pierce, and the girls were suffocated to prevent further suffering, as they thought it would be better for the kids.
Because aren't there stories, like, from back then when parents would kill, like, the younger ones because they're like, it's better for you to die this way than anything else, and this kind of gives everyone a better chance? Ugh.
Or difficulties within the family and rumors of their romantic relationship led to feelings of hopelessness, and they made a murder-suicide pact between the 2 of them.
Right.
Yeah. So, in March of 1935, the Pennsylvania General Assembly discussed a bill sponsored by Representative John L. Powers to fingerprint all school children in the state.
Oh.
I don't think that came to fruition, though.
Oh. That's a great idea, honestly.
I think...
It depends how it's done.
I think more so, it probably led to something more along the lines of, like, finding ways to identify children.
Right. Like, yes.
Yeah.
I think that's where I was coming at, where, like,
Yeah.
identifying is a good way.
Yes.
Like, you need something to identify children.
Absolutely. In 1968, Pennsylvania Highway Work installed a blue and yellow sign which reads, quote, "On this spot were found 3 babes in the woods, November 24th, 1934. And that is the mysterious solved case of the babes in the woods.
So what do you think happened?
I think the family is hiding something because the family didn't claim any of the bodies. And there were some newspaper articles that were talking about how the family was going to go to Pennsylvania. And, they wanted, one grandmother was like, well, I want the children back here to be buried next to their mother.
When were planes invented? Like, could you fly at this point?
I don't think it was common. I don't know.
Because we're in the 30s, right?
Yeah.
So we definitely had planes in the 40s because war.
Right. I don't know if planes were commercial at this point.
Okay.
That I don't know.
Because I'm just wondering, like, how easy, because, like, right now, if someone's like, hey, I need you to come to California to claim bodies, flying across the coast, it's not hard.
Yeah.
But I guess back then, I'm just wondering, like, how would you be able to? Like, sometimes it's expensive, like, things like that.
Well, and I think the thing that was weird for me is that the articles at the beginning of the investigation were talking about the family was going to come and these were the plans that they were having. This is what they were saying. And then at the end of it, they decided not to go. And it never said why. None of the family explained why they decided not to go.
They just decided not to go.
They just decided not to go.
So you think the family, like, knows something?
Well, it would make the most sense if all of a sudden there's this romance between these two people that is obviously highly inappropriate. One article even said that they maybe even fled because it was legal in Pennsylvania for them to have gotten married.
Were they technically related? Wait, yeah, niece. Yeah. So, yeah.
So I think that's why, like, maybe the family was all like, ooh, not happy. This isn't good. What are you doing? Kind of thing.
Right.
And they needed to leave quickly. Or with the brother's idea, the family was toxic as fuck. And everywhere I read, no one talked about him being weird towards the niece. No one officially was like, yeah, they were a little too comfy with each other.
Right.
Like, no one ever said that.
It was very just family.
Right.
Right. Okay.
And they talk about how much he loved his children and loved his girls. And, I feel like it could have easily have been family is toxic as hell. Don't realize it, except for obviously one other person.
Right. Who moved.
Right. Decide, well, we just have to go. We can't tell anybody because they're going to convince us not to. We're going to have to come up with a reason why. And so, well, let's just take this and go. And, maybe they thought they were going to be fine. But it's also...
But then how do you explain the deaths?
I think the idea that they ran out of money and were in dire straits and truly were left with no choice, I could see that being a possibility.
I think they left because someone was chasing them. I like that theory.
Me too.
Because they left without getting money, and like however many weeks they left without, that's a lot of money.
Right. Like that's the part.
It's just a part where like if it's something where you need to leave your family, why not go one town over?
Right.
Grab your stuff and then leave?
That's where like my theory, I'm like, that's where the holes come in.
But yeah, so I think they had to leave very quickly. That's why they just took off.
Yeah.
They couldn't even stick around to try to get the money. I think they just took off. And then kind of what I think that the bad people were getting close. And in order for the bad people to not torture the children, they just kind of did a mercy killing.
Yeah.
And then also thinking like they're getting close, just him and Winifred were like, you know what? It's better for us to die at our own hands than theirs.
Yeah.
That's kind of what though it doesn't, the only reason I don't totally support that theory is like there was nothing that you said that made me think that he's like not in super bad debt. He hasn't like wronged, at least from what you said, he didn't wrong anyone.
No, he wasn't involved in anything
right.
sketchy. Everyone said he good guy, kept his nose clean.
Exactly.
And so
the family theory does make a lot of sense.
Yeah. The only part is, why would you feel the need to just pick up and run?
Right.
Why,
why couldn't you take your money? That's the biggest thing.
Like
especially if you know you're going.
He was going to go farther with it,
right? Or especially if you know you're going far and you're going to need money. Why wouldn't you not take the? Or maybe he just thought, I'm going to get a job right when I get there. Like it'll be fine.
And why Pennsylvania?
Right.
Because if they left when they said they did on the 12th,
12th time,
they're found 10 days later. Eyewitnesses say that they're in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania area before that. Why did you go all the way there?
Right.
And like you said, you have to pretty much go and not stop.
Right. And that's 4 to 6 days is going and nonstop with like modern technology and modern cars.
Right.
If you're going back then 7 days, you're not stopping.
And
like you're going.
Right. And like you said, if you're just trying to get away from family.
Right.
Why
not like Colorado?
Yeah.
Wyoming.
Like his brother went to Arizona.
Right. It's not that far, but it's far, but it's not the other coast.
Yeah. I don't know. obviously a bajillion unanswered questions.
Oh, yeah. It's always whenever you find something new, it's like, well, that has more questions with it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So there's holes in everything.
Yeah.
Can't fill them up no matter how much you try. So no one really knows.
Well, this was a good one. This was an interesting one.
Thank you.
I am surprised I have never heard of it before.
Okay, so I really thought that I did. And I was looking for this because I thought I heard it on one of the podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't find it. Don't know why I really thought I heard of it before, but I thought I had, but I did not.
See, Mackenzie's like, oh, I think I've heard this one before, but I haven't. And then we covered Charles Starkweather. She texted me the other day. She's like, have you ever heard of the name Charles Starkweather?
Excuse me. I also said in that text message, I recognized his picture.
And then I said, oh, yeah, Nora covered him. She goes, oh, that could be why I know the picture.
It's a good thing I asked.
It is a good thing you asked. But you can also check on the spreadsheet.
Well, here's my thing. I start off with the first defense of, do you even know the person?
Right.
Because a lot of times it's not even that someone already covered it. It's that you know too much about it already. And so I can't even pick the topic.
All I do is listen to podcasts.
Right. And so then if you say you don't know,
right,
then I go back and check. Or like if something's really interesting and I'm like, no way they haven't covered this. And I'll go back and look. I'm like, yeah, they haven't covered it.
That's why we say we can keep going through. I met this guy. We went out for my friend's birthday on Friday and he was the friend of one of my friends. And so we were like chatting and my friend's being like, a good host is like, oh, do you know she has a podcast? And so he was like, well, what do you do when you like finish all the states? And I was like, well, we've already finished them twice. I said, we're on our third run through. And I always have to say, there are more than 2 scary things in each state.
Yep.
There's a lot of scary things. Sometimes even your small little states like Rhode Island and Delaware, they got some stuff there.
Mm-hmm. Even in Wyoming.
Even Wyoming.
It's a stretch, but...
Yeah, we get creative. But still.
We might eventually run out of things to talk about in Wyoming.
I don't know what's going to happen when we do run out.
We might not be all the states. It might just be the states that have a high enough population for things to keep happening.
We've dropped from 50 down to 40. We watched a movie, Wind River. It's about like an Indian reservation where a woman is found murdered and raped. And they're trying to find out like what happened. It's actually really good. Joe has been wanting to watch it forever. And I finally was like, fine, we'll watch it. It was good. It was one of those things where I was mad it was good because I actually really enjoyed it. But it happened in Wyoming, and so I got to give the fun fact. Did you guys know that Wyoming only has two escalators on there in Casper because it's so big you build out? And I was like, look at that fact. But yeah, because Wyoming has like 5 people there.
They have more sheep than people.
Right. So one day we will, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
I was also really impressed that you just could recall that.
The escalator thing?
No.
Oh.
The case that Nora did.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I think the reason why was because another podcast I really like covered it the week after we covered it.
Okay.
And I was like, oh my God, they listened to our episode and they covered it. There's no way that happened. But I just thought it was very interesting because I like had heard Nora's case, obviously. I edited it, obviously. And then I heard this other podcast. So I knew.
So you definitely knew it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was in my room and I was like, wow, I can't believe that just popped into her head and she knew automatically. That's so impressive.
There are some cases and people that just stick with you.
And I'm like, here I am Googling her case because I don't remember what she told me. And it was last week. And she remembers this from forever ago. And
I know.
All I knew was like, well, I knew I'd seen the picture before.
Maybe I scrolled one day on Weird
Just
Serial
didn't
Killers.
know where. That's so cool that she can do that. It's so impressive.
It doesn't happen all the time.
I have terrible recall memory.
Sometimes I'll like read a case and I'm like, I know this. And I'm like, do I know it because I listened to it before? Or do I know it because I've covered it?
Right.
So then I'll like go check our spreadsheet. I'm like, okay, we haven't covered it. We're good to go.
My problem is I'm like, do I know it? Or was it a Criminal Minds episode?
Oh, well, how many have we related?
All of them.
Pretty much all of them.
There was the last like 3 episodes of CSI that I watched. I'm like, they were a serial killer in Criminal Minds. They were a serial killer in Criminal Minds. They were a serial killer in Criminal Minds.
Yeah.
So fun to see bad guys across shows.
It is actually. It's like a recurring character.
Yep.
Well, thank you for listening.
As always.
For Mackenzie's birthday episode.
Yes.
We always love them.
Yes.
Rate and review us. To all of you who have rated and reviewed us, thank you so much.
And since this will come out on Wednesday, Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving, however you choose to celebrate and whoever you choose to celebrate with. We hope it's amazing.
And regardless of who you are or what you celebrate, the next day is my birthday and it's Black Friday and it's a Friday. So wear black and get blacked out responsibly.
That's the name of Mackenzie's party.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you do rate and review us, back to that. Send us an email to let us know so we can send you a little something.
Yes.
So I think that's all. So stay scary.
Stay safe.